Chicago is a city of immigrants. Over 1.6 million immigrants live in the metropolitan Chicago area, and nearly 25% of Chicagoans speak Spanish at home. Yet Chicago's local media are underserving immigrant populations in the region today. There were over 130 local and national media outlets serving primarily immigrant audiences in Chicago in 2012. Today, just half of those outlets remain. When journalists fail to meet the multilingual information needs of immigrants, the consequences for civic engagement and the health of Chicagoans are dire. During COVID, we have seen how immigrants have been targeted by disinformation campaigns in Spanish and other languages, putting whole communities at risk of getting sick. Borderless magazine is responding to the information and language needs of immigrants in the Midwest through our multilingual publishing, mentoring, and training programs. We publish investigations, feature stories, and as told to essays that aim to create a more representative media landscape that includes the voices and experiences of immigrant communities. But we know we can't do this work alone. That's where Translating Chicago Stories comes in.
Translating Chicago Stories is a project of the Institute for Nonprofit News, a rapidly growing organization of more than 300 nonprofit newsrooms. INN started a pilot in August to translate members' content into Spanish, funded by the Field Foundation. The goal was to make more high-quality journalism available to the city's Spanish speakers. The initial partners were 4 INN member newsrooms and a for-profit newspaper that publishes in Spanish. INN contracted with 2 translators who work on a retainer basis and others who are called upon as needed. Translation is free to the newsrooms, and any Spanish language news organization can use the content with credit. The successful pilot led to a grant from the McCormick Foundation, which allowed us to continue the project through June. This is one of several shared services that INN provides to Chicago newsrooms as part of its efforts to test ideas and collaboration strategies in the city.
Since launching in August, Translating Chicago Stories has helped 9 local news outlets translate over 100 of their English stories into Spanish. Borderless magazine coordinates the project and works with 2 native Spanish speakers to translate the stories. The process starts when a newsroom sends me a story in English. I assign it to one of the contracted translators, and they get the translated story back to me within 48 hours. I read the story and do a final edit before sharing it with both the newsroom and partner newsrooms for republication. I publish it on the INN website as well. I use a spreadsheet to track how many stories we translated and how many outlets are republishing it. I think one of the advantages of this workflow is that we have a native Spanish speaker both editing and translating the stories. As with any reporting project, having that second set of eyes to catch errors is critical. Another advantage is its reliability. Newsrooms can rely on getting their stories translated quickly and accurately thanks to the programs set up and our contracted team of translators. All of this has helped our local English newsrooms reach new audiences and meet the information needs of our Spanish-speaking communities. One example of impact that our project has had is a story published by Borderless magazine in December about how teachers are doubling as tech help during the pandemic for Hispanic families. Borderless used a project to translate the story into Spanish. Thanks to Translating Chicago Stories, it was picked up by both Univision and the Chicago Sun-Times Spanish language newsletter, helping more than double the number of people who read the story. The reporter, Amaris Rodriguez, was also interviewed by the local PBS station on their Latino Voices show after the Spanish story came out. Through these works, we have learned that the success of translation projects takes time. It takes time for English newsrooms to incorporate Spanish stories into their editorial workflow. We know that it's not enough for them to just translate a story. They also need to publish it in Spanish, do Spanish social media posts, and make their website easily accessible in Spanish. It also takes time for news outlets to build Spanish language audience. If audiences aren't used to coming to your website for Spanish content, It will take time to build their trust and for them to see you as a reliable source of accurate information in their language. Once they do so, however, newsrooms will have access to a growing audience that may become subscribers or donors in the future. Translating Chicago Stories is wrapping up at the end of June, but we are seeking funding to continue this work in Chicago. We know this work is just starting. We can't wait to continue what Translating Chicago Stories started here.